This video was originally released on November 21st of 2018. The individual in question had used their real name as their Twitter profile handle. As such, it has been requested that I re-upload this episode in a censored format so as to not show their first and last real name. I apologize for the re-upload, and I thank you all for the consideration. What's up guys, Suris here. Today we've got Master Apologist on Twitter with some of his more, cringy tweets. Now, I didn't have to look very hard to find any of these. In fact, these are all within the last 10 days. So let's go ahead and roll my intro. If you like my content, the best way you can support my channel is through Patreon. I am trying to make this my full-time thing, and YouTube ad revenue isn't all that great. Just $1, which is less than the price of a cup of coffee, is enough to help keep this channel going. Thanks to all my current patrons for their support, and thank you very much for watching my video. Before we get into the video proper, we do have to first go into a bit of this guy's backstory and where he relates in regards to me and the channel. For those of you who watch the Hammered Out podcast on Thursdays, you should be aware of Ocean Keltoy, who is my co-host. Master Apologist had been trying to challenge people to 2 versus 2 debates on the Modern Day Hysteria channel. Ocean countered, saying that he would challenge him to a 1 versus 1 debate and upped the venue to the Non Sequitur show. Shortly after the challenge, Ocean was actually blocked by this guy, so I don't have the original tweets to put up on here. Shannon Q also challenged him to a debate, and he responded to her saying that he doesn't debate girls. The misogynistic implications of that aside, it was then followed up with him saying, "Shannon, get in line and beg, and I never miss an opportunity to defend Christian theism and its historical foundations, especially against atheists, so get in line and pray." Now, the reason I wanted to point out the history between this guy and Shannon Q and Ocean, who are both members of the community that I deeply respect, is to show that any lack of respect I showed to him in this video is, at the very least, well warranted. With that said, let's get into the first tweet.
I want to look into your eyes when we debate. I want you to beg.
Well, now that we know that we're going to be dealing with the edgelord Barney the Dinosaur Master Apologist, I would first like to state that most of us in the community actually do our debates online and therefore don't really have the ability to make eye contact outside of using the cameras. Aside from that, I can't really get away from the sexual implications of this tweet, as if debating atheists is something that actually gets him off, which, as we've seen before, is something he actually runs from sometimes. I guess this means that, in the end, if he were to have a Facebook relationship with his debates with atheists, he would have to put it under "it's complicated."
Should atheists have the right to vote?
Now, the first thing about this tweet that everybody should be made aware of is the fact that this tweet was sent out at 3:30 p.m. on the 19th of November. There's a reason that will make sense, and I'll get into it in just a second. The first thing, though, is I would ask, are atheists human beings? Secondly, I would ask, are they citizens? If you answer yes to both of those questions, then they should have the right to vote in a secular nation, which we are. Now, remember how I said to take note of the date and time? He did happen to follow up afterwards, and if you look at the tweet, the date is actually November 20th. Here he says,
I believe atheists have the right to vote. Just clarifying.
But note that he had to add this clarification almost a day later, which means that I can't really say that this is his honest clarification. Based on the fact that merely asking the question already has its negative implications, having to backpedal after receiving negative responses tells me that you yourself were made aware of this after the fact. And after this, I think we're going to keep him with the name Barney the Dinosaur the Apologist, since Master Apologist isn't exactly apt.
What should atheists learn first? Reading, math, or logic?
Well, I never studied formal logic, but I hated math and I loved reading, so I wouldn't mind actually studying logic, but apparently 50% of people who voted said that atheists need to learn reading. I'm not exactly sure where you get your numbers from that say that atheists need to learn these things or don't already have these skills, but, you know, whatever. I'm just gonna chuck this into the bin that you and Discount Hoven are gonna have to share of stupid things you said because you're stupid.
While theists are doing research in history and philosophy, as well as building churches, atheists have their heads in the clouds, searching for UFOs and aliens.
So the atheists are the ones that have our heads in the clouds, when you have a god, who historically was defined as being in the clouds. Okay, sure. Now the question of aliens really just comes down to a matter of probabilities, and at that point you would have to assume that the atheist knows math. But based on your last tweet, you're not entirely convinced that atheists even know math, so yeah. Also, not all theists are Christian, so saying that they're all busy building churches and studying history and philosophy is disingenuous, and I'm not even gonna give you that. It's just dumb, okay? You're being dumb. Do yourself a favor, stop modeling your typing behaviors on the internet after Donald Trump, and stop typing out the dumb.
Church attendance remains same. So much for secularization.
So you are aware that the secularization of a society doesn't mean that that society is going to be any more or less religious. It just means that that religion doesn't have the same effect on the government that it would otherwise. We have a secular government now, but we are also a predominantly Christian nation here in the United States. So we wouldn't expect that having an overly secular nation would necessarily lead to a drop in church attendance. There's no mechanism in secularization that says that you would need to have a drop in church attendance. But those are details, and I guess details are really scary for people who claim to have a 400-0 debate record without anything to show for it. Oh, and I'm aware you guys did a 2 versus 1 debate on the Non Sequitur show with my friend Frustrated Atheist. I don't know if you'd chalk that up to a win, but I also don't know if it would necessarily matter.
Atheists excel at playing video games until 3 a.m. and flattening out on cocaine.
After reading that tweet, I need you to beat the stupid out of me. Okay, ow, more. I still feel the stupid! You can't, ow! Okay, I think I might, ow, okay, I think it's gone, ow! Fuck!
Without belief in God, mankind is free to believe all types of things. Sense becomes nonsense.
Okay, so let me get this straight, Moronicus Dipshiticus. Because somebody believes in God, all of a sudden everything makes sense. That wasn't the case for 2,000 years, and it's still not the case now. The belief or disbelief in a God has nothing to do with making sense of things for the most part. Sometimes it's just a logical conclusion. A belief in God could be used as a comfort mechanism. A belief in God could be used to make sense of something that you have moral issues with, but a belief in God does not in itself make sense of anything. In fact, in terms of explanatory power, I would honestly argue that God begs more questions than it answers. For instance, what if this person believes in a God and it just doesn't happen to be your God? Because I'm sure that when you posit God, you're positing specifically the Christian God. But what about polytheists? What about Muslims? What about Jews? What about Spinoza? Every single one of these groups and/or individuals all believe in a god of some kind. Do these people suddenly have more sense? No! I seriously don't see how you're going to come to the conclusion that without belief in God, you're suddenly free to believe everything. This is such a malformed question. Honestly, the pseudonym I'm going to have to call you by gets longer and longer as we go, Mr. Moronicus Dipshiticus Master Apologist Barney the Dinosaur.
Atheists build a religion of reason. The gods they follow are Mars, the god of war, of Mammon, the god of money, similar to Marx, and Aphrodite, the goddess of erotica, similar to Freud. We all have our gods, just like the cult of reason in the French Revolution. Hashtag atheist religion.
Okay, excuse me, what the fuck? The only way this particular tweet can make even an iota of sense is by muddying the definition of God so far down that it is positively meaningless. I guess that's 1 point for the theological non-cognitivists out there. But in all seriousness, I don't know any atheist that worships Freud unless you have, again, such a malformed version of the word worship that this somehow can make sense. And comparing all atheists to the cult of reason in the French Revolution has got to be one of the most illegitimate strawmen that I have ever seen a theist build. Just in general, saying that atheists build a religion of anything is nonsensical. Atheism is a philosophical position. Religion is a religious position. You can have religious people who are atheists, and you can have theists who don't adhere to any religious doctrine. Honestly, I feel like I need to be hitting the head with my hammer even more just to get the stupid of every single tweet that I just had to go through out of my head. He has far more utter stupidity on his page. For giggles, I also tweeted at him once and asked if he was ever going to have a one-on-one debate, and he never responded. That's not saying that he ran away from that tweet, but with the amount of time this guy's been on Twitter, I can only assume that he has at least once read it. But honestly, I'd rather watch Shannon rip him apart. I'd rather watch Ocean rip him apart. But unfortunately, he blocked one of them, and the other one's a girl, because apparently that matters. Well, with that madness out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I apologize if this was a little less, highbrow than what you guys are used to. But what can I say? I'm a cartoon holding a hammer that randomly blinks. The bar isn't set very high to begin with. The usual links to Patreon, Amazon, and literally everything else will be found in the description below, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Thursday's live stream, where we should have Godless Iowan and Bionic Dance. As always, everyone, as we move into the Patreon slides, insert end of video tagline here.